Hi, this is StrategyCast, where smart marketers and bold business thinkers share the plays behind brand breakthroughs. I'm Lori Jones, President and CEO of Avasec Communications. There's a belief in marketing, and I think we've all bought into this at some point, that creativity is what drives results. That the best idea wins, that bold messages cut through, that if we can just be more interesting, more compelling, more memorable, we win. But I want to challenge that today, because when you really step back and look at how buyers are behaving right now, that belief starts to break down. Buyers aren't asking, what is the most interesting company? They're asking, who can I trust that will deliver? And that is a fundamentally different question. So today we're going to roll up our sleeves on a very meaty topic, one that I am so incredibly passionate about, and really unpack what's changed in buyer behavior and why credibility, not creativity, is what's driving decisions in today's market. Because here's the core idea I want you to walk away with. Creativity gets attention, but credibility earns the order.
A competitive edge starts with strategy, and strategy starts with knowing how to develop one. StrategyCast is a leading marketing podcast that serves up strategic insights, trends, and tips to help separate your business from the pack. Tune in weekly as host Lori Jones interviews bold marketing leaders who have priceless wisdom and are willing to share. Each episode explores cutting-edge approaches that have proven instrumental in transforming brands into industry trailblazers.
Let's start with the buyer, because everything begins here, always. And if we don't understand how buyers think today, everything we build as marketers is just noise. Now, there's some really important data that reinforces what many of us are really feeling intuitively. The Edelman Trust Barometer tells us that 7 in 10 are hesitant to trust those who are different from them. And only 39% of people are willing to engage with opposing viewpoints. Just sit with that for a second. That is not the behavior of an open-minded, curious explorer. That is behavior of someone who is cautious, guarded, and filtering. In other words, they're a risk manager. And I love this reframe because it changes everything. Buyers today are not exploring possibilities. They are evaluating risk. They're asking, can this company actually do what they say? Will this work in my environment? What happens if it fails? So when marketing shows up with big claims, polished visuals, abstract positioning, the response is not curiosity, it's scrutiny. Can they actually do this? That's the filter everyone goes through now. And if we don't meet that moment correctly, we lose trust before we ever get the chance to build it. Now, here's where things get really, really interesting, and honestly, where a lot of brands get it wrong. Because the natural reaction to a competitive market is to lean harder into creativity. Let's modernize. Let's evaluate the brand. Let's create something that truly does stand out. Now, we believe in distinction. There's no doubt about it. And I get it. I love creative. I really, really do. It's very, very important. But here's the tension. When creativity gets ahead of credibility, it breaks trust, especially in technical industries, manufacturing, industrial, B2B environments where precision matters. Because in those categories, buyers are not looking for inspiration. They're looking for certainty. They expect specificity, clarity, and proof. So when marketing starts to feel more impressive than an actual operation, that's when doubt creeps in. And I'll say this very directly because I think it's important. When marketing becomes more impressive than the operation, trust starts to erode. And once that happens, it's incredibly difficult to recover. So if buyers aren't responding to positioning the way they used to, what are they responding to? Let's walk through the modern buyer journey because this is critical. It's not linear in the way we used to think about it. It's not just awareness to consideration to decision. Today, it looks more like this: exposure, skepticism, validation, decision. Let that sink in. And that skepticism stage, that's where everything happens, right? That's where deals are won or lost because buyers are actively looking for reasons not to believe you. They're asking, will this perform under stress? Can they deliver consistently? What is the failure rate? Who else relies on this? And here's the key insight. No one is buying based on a tagline. They're buying based on confidence. Confidence that this will work, confidence that this will hold up, confidence that they won't regret the decision. And confidence doesn't come from positioning. It comes from proof. Let me make this real with an example because I think it's where this really clicks in. Let's talk about charter casting. Now, what's fascinating about charter is their advantage was never marketing. It wasn't branding. It wasn't storytelling. It wasn't campaign thinking. Their advantage has always been what happens inside of the operation. The manufacturing precision, the material quality, the consistency at scale, the reliability in demanding environments, the long-standing customer relationships. I mean, this is a business built on doing hard things the right way, over and over and over again. But here was the gap. Those strengths were not being clearly translated into market credibility. They existed, they just weren't visible. And I love this because it's such a common situation out there. The problem wasn't capability, it was communication. So instead of asking, how do we make charter casting more interesting, we asked a very different question. How do we make charter casting more believable? And the shift changed everything because now, instead of creating new narratives with uncovering the truth, we moved from general statements like high-quality solutions to specific proof, materials, tolerances, performance, and process. Instead of saying we deliver superior performance, we show what makes materials superior, how it is produced, how it outperforms alternatives, and why customers rely on it. And this is such an important principle. So if you're listening, this is one of those write it down moments. Specificity builds trust. Generalization erodes trust. Every single time, no matter what. And this leads to what I think is the real unlock in modern marketing. Let the operation become the marketing. Because for charter, the story didn't need to be invented. It already existed in the plant, in the process, in the people, in the product performance. That is the story. Marketing's job is to surface it, to structure it, to translate it, to make it visible, understandable, and accessible to the market. And I love this line, and it's become such a grounding principle for us. The best marketing wasn't created. The best marketing is uncovered. And if you think about your own business for a second, where is the truth already sitting? Because I promise you, it's there. Now, I want to be very clear about something. This doesn't mean creativity goes away. Not at all. We just have to reposition its role because creativity is still incredibly important, but not in the way we've traditionally used it. It's not there to exaggerate. It's not there to decorate. It's not there to distract. It's there to clarify. To take something complex and make it simple, to take something technical and make it understandable, to take something dense and make it accessible. And in Charter's case, creativity helped simplify technical information. It helped structure the website experience. It helped organize product categories. It made proof easier to consume. And I love this distinction. Creativity didn't make charter casting more compelling. It made charter casting more clear. And clarity is what builds confidence. Now let's talk about the broader market because this is where opportunity really opens up. Most companies in the category fall into two traps. Trap number one, they're too generic. We deliver quality and service. Your success is our satisfaction. Okay, so does everyone else. There's no differentiation, no distinction, as I mentioned, no credibility, and no reason to believe. Trap number two, they go too abstract. High-level branding, big ideas, no proof. And what happens? It feels disconnected, and it delivers skepticism because the buyer is sitting there thinking, but can they actually do it? So if everyone else is either too vague or too abstract, the opportunity is to do the opposite, to be specific, be transparent, be grounded in reality, because that is ultimately what builds trust. And this is where we've got to zoom out and think strategically, because credibility is not a tactic. It is a strategy. In markets like this, buyers are not optimizing for novelty. They're optimizing for safety. They want to make the right decision. They want to avoid risk. They want something that works. And this is a line that I come back to time and time again. The safest choice often wins, and credibility is what makes you feel like the safest choice. So when you think about competitive advantage, it's not just about being different. It's about being believable. So let me bring this full circle for you, because if you've been in marketing for a while, you've probably been trained to think, be bold, be creative, and stand out. And again, there's truth in all of that. But the market has changed. Buyers have changed. And we have to change with them, because today you don't win by being the most interesting. You win by being the most believable. And that is a very, very different game. So as you think about your own marketing, your messaging, your website, your campaigns, I want you to ask yourself one simple question. Are we trying to impress, or are we proving? Because the companies that win moving forward are the ones that can answer that question in absolute clarity. And I'm going to leave you with this today. Credibility is not a tactic. It's not something that you layer in at the end. It is a strategy. It is your foundation. It is the thing that turns attention into action. And if we get it right, everything else begins to work. Thanks for listening to StrategyCast today.
That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us on today's show. We hope your strategic brains are spinning with new ideas and bold inspiration that will elevate your strategies and marketing know-how.